First off, thank you everybody for your time and attention, and thank you for the invite to come and speak a little bit about what we're up to out in Montana, conserving grasslands in the Great Plains. So temperate grasslands worldwide are home to iconic species, from plains bison to Przewalski's horse to pronghorn antelope, like the one pictured here. But unfortunately, temperate grasslands are also the single most imperiled ecosystem on the planet. This is due to a combination of historical and contemporary rapid conversion to other land use types, as well as the fact that temperate grasslands are extremely poorly represented. I will. They're extremely poorly represented, both in our national and in our global network of protected areas. Temperate grasslands face a wide variety of threats. This is not just a historical problem. We're losing 1 million acres of grassland in the northern Great Plains in the United States right now. Beyond that, in the grasslands that still remain, keystone species like prairie dogs, bison, and important ecological forces like fire are almost entirely absent from these systems. This has created a crisis, not just for the biodiversity of temperate grasslands, but also for the people and cultures that rely on them. So with that threat looming, Smithsonian initiated the Great Plains Science Program under the leadership of Bill McShay in 2018. I'm ecstatic to say that I was one of the first people to join that program and move to Montana. Immediately, we found partnership with a couple organizations, American Prairie, which is a rewilding organization, and also the Fort Belknap Indian community in north central Montana. Both of these groups have both access and manage a huge amount of land, and do so purely for biodiversity, or largely for biodiversity conservation, and in large part via restoration of native keystone species. I'm proud to say that there's far too much science for me to go through during this talk, so I'll try to just touch on a couple highlights here. Our group has done a tremendous job in increasing our understanding of how native keystone species interact with and support grassland ecosystems. We've been able to show that restoration of bison and prairie dogs increases the nutrient content of plants in grassland systems, and also increases the diversity and landscape scale heterogeneity of vegetation in grasslands. Beyond that, we've uncovered completely novel interactions between grassland keystone species and other members of the community. This illustration here is of a long-billed curlew in two different incubation postures on its nest. Its alert, relaxed posture, and it's sort of what I call its pancake cryptic posture. We've been able to learn through some really creative work by a graduate student, Andrew Dreelan, that these birds are actually able to eavesdrop on the predator calls given by prairie dogs and adopt these cryptic postures earlier with positive benefits for reproductive success. I want to shout out Nick Garnart, NZCBI's own Nick Garnart, who's an intern who created this illustration for us, which was absolutely phenomenal, and Ellie Tomasev, who did amazing work in comms and allows us to tell this story on NPR just a couple months ago. Beyond that, we do a lot of tracking work of imperiled grassland birds. These are tracks of long-billed curlews. Beyond revealing things like migratory connectivity and timing and links between the breeding and wintering grounds, we're able to apply this tracking data for direct conservation benefit. One specific example with these curlews is we partnered with an organization called Ovis in Mexico to do targeted long-term conservation easements on more than 10,000 acres of ephemeral wetlands in the Chihuahuan Desert of Mexico, where these birds spend the winter. I think one of our biggest and most significant conservation achievements as a program has been swift fox reintroduction to a large area of north central Montana where they were absent for more than 50 years. This restoration effort has been hugely successful with the translocation of over 150 individuals. These animals are reproducing, and as you can see in the figure here, they're also dispersing widely across this landscape, potentially linking up with a heretofore isolated population north of the border in Canada, which is very exciting. Smithsonian provided the scientific expertise and science support for this project, but ultimately this effort was led by the Ani and Nakota nations, the Fort Belknap Indian community. And for them, this work goes well beyond just a conservation success story. This was an act of cultural restoration for these people on this landscape, and we were honored to participate. As with any Smithsonian effort, education is a pillar of what we do. We train between 30 and 40 interns and graduate students every summer out in the Great Plains of Montana and North Dakota. This ranges from interns from the tribal colleges who are learning the newest field techniques to apply them on their homelands, to folks, young scientists coming to us from the global south and hopefully falling in love with grasslands and conservation for the first time. Going forward, we're really expanding our efforts into a wider variety of land use types and working with different people. We're now working with state agencies, federal agencies, lots of private landowners to provide science support for either rewilding, working lands conservation, or even restoration of degraded lands back to grasslands. One note I'll just leave you with, and I think it's an accomplishment or achievement that I'm particularly proud of, our team is proud of, is that through these partnerships built on trust and unbiased science, we don't own a single square foot of land in the Northern Great Plains, but our conservation science is now having an impact on upwards of 3 million acres across Montana, North Dakota, and other parts of the Great Plains. So thanks very much for your attention.